I'm about to blow. I gotta stay on my hustle, you know that I'm grinding for sure. I came up right from the bottom, now they see me chasing my goals. Now they see me on the go, yeah. Now they see me on the road. It's time to hustle, yeah, it's time to grow. I'ma shoot for the stars and we aim for the gold. It's time to hustle, yeah, it's time to grow.
Do you know who made that for me? Oh, you gotta turn number 3 up.
Who made it?
One of the local boys, bro. I'll actually show you some of his shit. We'll see if maybe we get one made for you too.
Maybe, G. That'll be actually cool.
Yeah,
real,
bro.
real good.
Jaeger. Yeah, Gun, bro. He's the man. You should listen to all his shit, bro. He's mean. But
Yeah, definitely.
welcome back to Hustlers. Another episode of Hustlers. This one's by myself. And as always, brought to you by Arepa. Arepa, the goats. Some people have referred to this as God's juice, God's piss, and I'd say that'd be quite accurate. 24 calories, I think, from memory, the sparkling one. 24 calories, 37 for the other one. Gun. And honestly, shit you not, it actually works. Not only does it taste hissing, but it actually helps give you the tunnel vision to get through everything you need to in a day. I fully attest to it, guarantee it works. Use promo code 138 online and you will get 20% off. That is a pretty fucking hissing discount. So go try it out. It also supports the podcast when you go and do that. And new and introduced, welcome to the podcast, Manscaped. Can you see it? This way. Manscaped. Shout out to Manscaped. They reached out to us maybe a couple months ago now, and we've finally nailed everything off and our packages have been sent and we're on board for, this is our one trial period, so make sure you help us out and use our promo code online. But Manscaped, made for men, we help your balls, we save your balls, that's what they like to say.
Just hold it up a little bit, bro. It says your balls will thank you, but there's those beautiful products in there.
Look at that.
You know, if you want your weapon to be taken care of, then hey.
So this is actually
for you.
This is actually the performance package, but I'm loving this at the moment. I think it's the 4.0, that one there. Anti-cut technology, so look after them balls, bro. We got ball deodorant. We got a pair of undies in here. We got the whole gig. We got the whole gig here. We actually get this too, which is unreal. A little bit of a wee whacker into the nostrils.
Oh, how good.
138. Use that code online. You get 20% off and free shipping. They're actually running a discount at the moment, and it's something like 45% off at the moment on their website. So if you use the promo code 138, you get a further 20% off and you get free shipping. So jump on that. Like I said, it supports the podcast if you do jump on that and cop something, and then hopefully they stay on with us. So shout out to Manscaped, and we're into it. So this is the next episode of Hustlers, and today I put out a little bit of a, I guess, questionnaire for people. I always get questions about podcasts and starting podcasts, and like how we run our podcasts, all that sort of stuff. What started off as, I guess, like a little idea and stuff, it's actually become a massive part of our business. So I just fired you through those questions, Quinn. On a text. I just put them on the notes.
We've got them.
You got them? And you can just fire through them to me and we'll get into them.
Here we go. Just wait for you to have a little sip of the beautiful juice.
Holy shit, I just got smarter.
God's piss, if you will.
Just got smarter. L-theanine. So actually funny, what do you call it? Fun fact about Arepa. They actually, whatever you call that thing that's in it, the supplement that's in it, is actually made from pine bark extract. So out comes from bark, tree bark, which sounds fucking disgusting, but made by proper food scientists to mask the taste so you can't taste it at all. But that's actually a funny thing. And they give it to, they use it for ADHD kids to help.
No way.
Yep, that's the same thing that they use with them.
The power of nootropics, eh?
Created by neuroscientists. This is some smart shit, man. This shit is going to be worldwide soon, so they're going to be as big as Manscaped soon. We have two worldwide businesses.
As big as Manscaped?
Actually, that was a funny thing about Manscaped too. Word on the street is if you keep that down, you keep the pecker in check. Apparently, adds a few inches too.
Yeah,
so
45% down on the price, 45% up on you know what. So there we go. The proof is in the pudding. Trialed and tested. By the one and only. All right, let's get into it, eh?
Let's go.
All about podcasting today. So, the first question. I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this one truthfully, but how do you turn a mic on?
I wonder who fucking asked that question.
Guess we'll never know.
Yeah, okay. So, if you actually see our setup, there's so many fucking buttons now. And no excuses. I fucked up. I think I left the mic button off. That's the only reason I can think why there was no sound. It's on now, is it?
It is on. We've got the mic's going. So hey.
Yeah. So fuck that up. For future reference, I'll turn the mic on during a podcast.
Alrighty. Going into the next question there. What apps / software do you record on?
So we use our gear as our equipment is we use a Rodecaster Pro, which is a soundboard, which is what these are all plugged into. So pretty much all our shit's Rode. We've got the pod mics, the Rodecaster Pro, and then that's for our audio. We plug that into what our main thing, which is called an A10 Mini Pro ISO actually. So we pretty much plug all our cameras into that, and we also plug the Rodecaster into it for sound. So basically, you jump on the A10 Mini, you press record, you can switch between the cameras, and it will hear all the audio from our Rodecaster because it's been plugged in. So that pretty much gets recorded onto a little SD drive, and then we'll put that into our computer and we'll edit it on Final Cut Pro, and then we'll export it as an audio file, export it as a video file. We'll chuck them up on the respective platforms, and that's how we get it up. It's not really anything else we use, eh?
No, I think that's pretty much. Oh, the cameras, obviously, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So the cameras we use Sony A7 Mark IIIs with Tamron lenses. So probably a bit of a stretch setup in terms of cameras for podcasting, but we had a pretty good deal on them, so we thought we may as well go all out and focus on the quality, because if we want to be a quality podcast and we want to get quality sponsors on, we got to have quality fucking image, bro.
This is true. This is a really nice setup. I mean, what about a simple setup for some people that just want to get started?
Is that another question?
That is another question. Well, from me, yeah. But it's probably leading on from this.
Yeah. So how I started was I had two $100 USB mics from the music shop, and I would just plug those into my laptop and open GarageBand, the free thing on Apples if you have an Apple, and literally just recorded our audio onto the GarageBand and exported it as an MP3 file, and I would post that up. So literally all you need is two mics, and really you don't even need that. You can use your phone. You can audio record on your phone, then post that up on Anchor, anything like that. Very easy ways to set up and start a podcast. This is 2 years of doing this shit. Now we're starting to get the equipment, but when we started, we had nothing. And I honestly recommend that rather than waiting to have enough money to get all the flash kit or whatever, I would just start and then show your growth. It'd actually be cool to throw up the photo of the first podcast I ever did, and it was in my bedroom on shoot. We had shoe boxes, and we had the mics set up on these little stands, but they were so short that like you couldn't set them up on the table because they were too low. So we had to put shoe boxes there, and they were on this little table in my room, and the laptop's sitting on my bed in my room, and we're crumpled up in this corner, me and Kehu, and we did my first podcast. That was our first podcast. I listen to it now and I go, holy shit. So you should scroll down and listen to the first podcast I ever did. It sounds fucking terrible. And just even the way we're talking, it sounds so scripted. But like, I would never change that, because people now listen to all our podcasts and they hear the change. They hear the growth. They hear, holy shit, this has changed. Holy shit, this has changed. And we get messages like, oh, the the podcast setups leveled up and shit like that. And I go, yeah, fuck it. You only know that because you saw where we started. So
Growth, man.
That's
It is
bro.
awesome.
Document your journey, bro.
Exactly. So I think leading on from that one, what made you want to start podcasting?
Literally the very first reason that I started a podcast was because I listened to a lot of Gary Vee. And Gary Vee said anyone who has a business should have their own podcast. And that's literally why I started one. Because if anyone follows Gary Vee, they know that he is right about 99.9% of shit. And TikTok being one of them, he talked about how TikTok's going to take over the world. Everyone of every age is going to be on it. Make sure you're on it. And sure enough, very soon later, everybody's on it. Old people are on it. And he said every business that gets on it now will reap the rewards of it. And I think people have. So yeah, I try to follow that methodology from our man Gary Vee. And yeah, that's why I started it. So I think I started 138 in September of 2019. And I started the podcast in December. And I also listened to a lot of the ICE project, YKTR. I followed a lot of them from when we started. Modeled a lot of what we did off them because they were in the same arena, I guess, or the same industry. So it was cool to follow because it was where we wanted to aspire to be. And yeah, that was the question. It was, why did I start it, right?
Yeah. What made you want to start podcasting?
Yeah. So it was that. It was the Gary Vee telling me to start. But then once I started, my whole why changed for the podcasting, and it ended up becoming like a mental release for me. Like I would sit down once or twice a week, face to face with a person, no phones. There's a light and there's mics and there's cameras there, but like you're just sitting there, and not very often do you get to sit there these days, just one-on-one with nothing, no technology, just literally sitting there and talking to someone. And it honestly helped me mentally. Like I actually got a big kick out of being able to sit and have a proper conversation with someone and learn about them and learn new things, and they learn about me, and just literally just chew the fat. And I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and he was just like, it's so crazy that we sometimes get lost in the fact that we sit here and talk, me, Jamie, and a guest. We just sit here and we just feel like we're talking, and then we forget that when that gets posted, it reaches millions and millions of people. And it's something you, I guess, do forget. Like, obviously, we don't reach millions and millions of people, but I forget that anyone's watching. I'm just sitting here having a conversation with someone, and I think that's become a massive reason why I do it now. And also another reason of why we essentially podcasted was to document everything we're doing and to educate people. When we learn shit, we try to teach it, because why should you have to go through the same mistakes that we did if you don't have to, when I can just fucking tell you what we did wrong, and then you don't have to make that same mistake. So some people will be in the same industry and some people will be in different industries and be a little bit like, oh, I'm going to hold my cards close to my chest. I hide those secrets. You need to make the mistakes that I did so you can learn. I think that's bullshit. I think that we should be pumping each other up. I think we should be helping each other and help them not make mistakes that you made, because what's the fucking point in them doing that? And yeah, I guess that's another massive reason why we do it.
Wicked, bro. So leading on from that, you've got started and everything, you're doing really well. But how do you reach out to guests now, or do guests reach out to you? You know, what's the process there?
We don't receive a massive amount of, we do receive maybe like once a month or something, we'll receive someone asking us to jump on the podcast. So not like a whole lot of times does that happen. Mostly I honestly just DM them. Like I just jump on Instagram, I'll message them, I'll go, I love what you do. I love your story. Will you jump on our podcast and talk about your journey? And I think a lot of people can learn a lot of stuff from you. Stuff like that. And they just, anyone who goes yes will say, anyone who's keen will say yes. Anyone who's not will say no, or they'll see me or never open it. And fuck them. I couldn't tell you the amount of times I've been seen to ask people to jump on this podcast. But for me, it's honestly like swallowing your pride and just being like, sometimes you just have to like not care about that shit and not care. People would be like, oh my God, that's embarrassing. It's like, I don't give a fuck, bro. Like, I'm gonna ask you to jump on my podcast. If you don't want to and you've seen me, fuck, no skin off my back, bro. I don't care. But I'm still gonna ask that question and shoot my shot. And there's been certain times where that's paid off for me. That giving a caring attitude around, like, say for example, Aaron Simpson, right? Love Island. He was on Love Island UK last year. Or 2020 or last year, one of those two. I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last year. What was I say?
I think so.
He came out of Love Island. He was like my favorite guy on the show. I was on his Instagram and I saw that and I was like, fuck, it'd be so cool to podcast someone on Love Island because just to hear all the background stories and shit. And so I was like, I'm going to reach out to this guy. But he had over 100,000 followers. I was like, he's probably riding the hype of Love Island at the moment, and this is where I got a bit cheeky, and this is where something you could use too. I thought, so many people will be DMing him right now, it's just going to get lost, like you're not going to be able to be seen, so how do I approach it? So I saw that he had his manager and his agent in his bio, so I clicked on that. They had about 3,000 followers, so I was like, okay, fuck, this is more of a chance of getting a reply. So I DM'd that page, and I was like, hey, like, massive fan of Aaron, keen to get him on the podcast. You've got a massive following over here in New Zealand, Love Island does, and everyone would be keen to hear him talk about his journey and stuff on Love Island. And I didn't get a reply for about a month maybe, and then out of the blue someone replied and goes, yep, sweet, can you send me an email with all the details? I sent his agent, I think his name's Jake, all the details. And then he replied to me. We teed it up for a certain day. It was at 8 o'clock at night our time because of the time differences. Bearing in mind, once I got set up, I set the Zoom call up and I'm sitting on it. I have not once spoken to Aaron this whole time. So sitting there after telling everyone that I was getting Aaron on the podcast, throwing up a Q&A on my story that to ask Aaron questions, I had still not talked to him. So I was fucking bricking it that it was fake. And so what's wrong with it? Oh, yeah. So I was bricking it, and someone was like, Aaron Simpson's going to join the call. Clicked on it, and I was like, holy fuck, it's actually him. So we actually sat there and we yarned for like maybe half an hour before we even started the potty. And then we yarned for probably, I would say, close to an hour after the potty, after we had finished recording. And we just clicked, man. Like, it was just like really easy convos. He loved what I was talking about in terms of the brand. He was a real big fan of that shit. He was like, bro, had a look at our website. He's like, bro, I love this shit. This is his thing. And I was like, oh, bro, I'll send you some kit over. He's like, but 100%, just send it over and I'll rock it and I'll send you photos in it and shit. I was like, done. He gave me his WhatsApp. We started yarning on WhatsApp. But honestly, ever since then, now, like, we message, every now and again, probably like within every 2 weeks. And then I send him clothes and he rocks it and he sends us photos. And, a lot of people would pay for that shit. But being honest, we don't pay him anything. We literally just send him the free clothes. In fact, we sent some clothes not that long ago, and the UK borders made him pay like import fees on it. Rather than asking us for the money, he just paid the import fees. So, like, he got gifted stuff, he paid the import fees, and then sent us photos and the shit. So he's a good lad, and that would never have happened if I didn't just reach out and shoot my shot. And I shot my shot, caring if it fucking failed, and it worked out. So if you've got someone who's got a massive following, find a different way to be able to contact them, I would say. I found his manager. They had 3,000 followers. I thought that was a better shot. And in fact, I actually just received an email a couple of weeks ago from their management company saying that there's more people in their company that would like to work with us. And that stuff's going to be paid, but there's some big names in there. Like, I was like sitting there scrolling through them and I was like, holy shit. Like, we had the budget for that, like, it would definitely be worth it. There was that Griff. Do you know who I'm talking about, bro? He presented at Super Bowl, bro.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he was in the year, maybe I think the year before, the Love Island before, or maybe the one before that. Oh, that's gonna hurt me. Anyway, he He was on that list. And then there was another guy from that other dating show.
Was it Heartbreak? From Heartbreak?
Nah, it's the one on Netflix.
Too Hot to Handle.
Too Hot to Handle.
Yeah.
One of the main guys on that as well. He was on there as well. Yeah, massive people. And yeah, like I said, that shit wouldn't have happened if I didn't just shoot that message and shoot my shot. So
Yeah, wicked, bro. Exactly. And I think moving on from there as well, given our awesome sponsors, a few people want to know, how do we monetize off the podcast, or how do we attain these sponsors?
it's a very good question, and it's something that I'm still getting used to, and I'm still working out as we go, literally. So people do it differently. A lot of people do it cost per mil, I think it's called, CPM, which is like cost per 1,000 views or downloads or whatever you call it. So basically, if I recorded a podcast and I posted it, and I go, hey, this is sponsored by Arepa, how they would do it is go, okay, if they paid for a pre-roll at the start of the podcast, that's going to be $60 every 1,000 views. I think it's something like that. $60 every 1,000 views. So if you get, and within 6 weeks, within a 6 week period, so if you get to 6 weeks, that podcast has reached 5,000 people on YouTube, and 5,000 people on Apple and Spotify. That's 10,000 views, and you get $60 per 1,000 views. So that would be $600 for that podcast. And that's how it would run usually, from what I've heard. But how we do it is a little bit different. So we pretty much give these businesses like a set amount of podcasts that we'll do in a month. So I'll give you an example with Arepa. We tell them that we do 8 podcasts a month for them. That roughly equivalates to 2 a week, pretty much. And they pay us a retainer every month that we both think is fair and beneficial to both of us. They give us a discount code for you guys to use, and then they track that discount code to see how often it gets used. So then they can go, are we getting much of a return on investment? They can see how many times it's been used, and I've asked recently how many times it's been used, for how much in sales, so they can see how much money they're getting back in sales by us pitching Arepa on our podcast. And I think that that's more beneficial, because you may not get as many views as someone else, but you may be selling more of their shit because you have a more engaged following. And that's what I believe. I believe that we have a really engaged following, and our shit won't get a massive amount of views, but a lot of the people will actually listen and will buy into what we're doing, because we've built a community based on trust, and people trust us. And that is a bit of pressure, but it hasn't come for no reason. Like, it's because we're raw and we're real and we don't bullshit. And when I tell you Arepa is fucking hissing, I'm telling you that because I think it's actually hissing. I'm not just making that shit up, like, so you buy it. I'm working with a brand that I actually truly believe in. And I think that's important. Don't sell yourself out for a bit of money. Like, you have to believe in what you're promoting, and it has to be real and raw and honest. So that would be one thing. Straight away, work with brands that align with you and your business or your podcast. Don't work with people because they're going to give you a bunch of money, even though you hate what they do or hate what they're about, because it's not going to work. So like I said, they pay us a retainer every month, so we invoice them monthly. They pay the same amount every month, regardless of how many sales we make them, but we lock in for a certain amount, so they're locked in for the rest of the year, and if they want to continue, then they lock in again. And because what also happens a lot with people on the podcast is when they listen to our podcast and say, I keep using Arepa, but say Arepa they sponsor it and people listen and they go, oh, I want to buy Arepa. Some of them actually go down to, say, the supermarket and they'll buy an Arepa. Now, the company's never going to see that we made them buy that. But they are watching our stuff, they're watching our community, and then they believe that, oh, yeah, these guys are making an impact on what they're preaching about our brand. Holy shit, that's loud.
Just wait a little bit, until it's gone past.
So many trucks, bro.
That's a train.
Was it a train?
Yeah.
Same with Manscaped. They reached out to us, which was pretty cool. They must have a heap of dudes just scrolling through and and finding businesses or brands that align with them or podcasts that align with them. So a guy from the audio marketing team reached out to us, and yeah, they gave us a bunch of do's and don'ts. With Arepa, it's quite relaxed for us. With Manscaped, it was quite serious. As you can imagine, the scale of the business, it's huge, it's worldwide. So there's a lot of formalities that need to happen before you can actually, so like pretty much that we sign that we're not going to talk about their podcast in a bad manner. But something that's massive that I really liked about Manscaped is they'll say like, give your raw and honest opinion on the products. Don't lie, because they don't want you to lie about how good their stuff is. They're not telling you to, use it, and even if you don't like it, say it's good. They go, use it. If you don't like it, don't promote it. But if you do, make sure it's an honest opinion on what you think about it. So that's what we do with it. Honestly, it's such a cool package as well. Like the fact that it comes in this little box like this. Everything just is real sleek and real, like I love that. Actually, just show my legs as well, bro. That's good.
Wicked, just hold it up a little closer to your face, bro, for the camera. Yeah, there we go.
See it?
Nice and focus. Get a good little view of it. Bloody
Unreal.
beautiful, bro.
That is actually hissing.
Little weapon there.
Pull this one out too, actually, while we're here. That's your nose trimmer.
There we go. And focus again.
Lads, get around that, please. That is unreal. They got the ball deodorant that actually smells hissing. It's like works on your pH levels of your balls.
Oh, it has like neutralizer, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it smells mean. Ooh. Yeah, smells mean. It smells unreal.
Beauty.
Actually. Once again, use the code 138 because that's a similar thing. They go on and they'll see how much it gets used, and they go, okay, are we getting a return on investment here? Yeah, so if you're wondering what this one is, this is the performance package. If you go onto Manscaped, the performance package, that's that whole thing. I think once you add the discount code on top of the sale that's on at the moment, ends up going down to like $140 for all of that. So make sure you jump on. But yeah, sponsorships, we invoice them a price that we think is fair on the amount of reach that we get. They'll come back and say yes or no, basically it. So in a nutshell. And then we'll sell every now and again, we'll sell one-offs. For example, I've just brought on Kale, mate of mine, and he wanted to sponsor mine, and he wants to sponsor 2 podcasts in the month that he thinks will align with him best. And if there's none, then none that month. So basically, if I think that there's going to be 2 really good ones that I think he's going to like, I'll tell him. He'll go, yep, and then we'll chuck him on the 2. Then I'll just invoice for the 2. So we got prices based on pre-rolls, mid-rolls, and post-rolls. We don't really do post-rolls at the moment, but that would be a pre-roll would be at the start, a mid-roll would be in the middle of the podcast, and a post-roll would be at the end. Obviously, the pre-roll is the most expensive, the mid-roll is the next, the post-roll is the least expensive, being people will listen to the podcast at the start quickly, more attentively, and obviously a lot of people drop off throughout the podcast. So that's how we run it.
Legend. Heaps of information in there. So I think people want to know now. So I've gone. Sorry, the next question was basic setup, but we've sort of done that before.
Yeah.
But what's your biggest podcast tip?
Actually, there's one that I've recently started doing, and I think it's made our podcast so much better. And I was actually telling Quinn about this the other day because I was doing it in the podcast that I did with him. And it does come with like risk. Well, I mean, you can call it risk, but basically what I do now is we go no script when I talk to someone. I don't write down a list of questions that I want to ask them. I don't write down anything. I literally just walk in with a blank piece of paper and I'll sit there and I'll just have a conversation. Because when you start writing stuff down, you start looking at it and you start reading it like it's a script, and it sounds scripted. And the best podcasts are conversations that flow and are normal between 2 people, and not, preloaded questions that you have written down that you fire through. So you feel like, I better write them down just to make sure I cover them, because there's certain things that I want to cover. And that might be true. You might have to write down a couple things that you're like, I really want to cover this. But on the whole, I think you literally just go in with a bit of a plan on, what you kind of want to talk about. Don't write a single thing down and just sit there and have a conversation with them. And the best tip with that leads on from that I got, and it was through Joe Rogan actually, listening to Joe Rogan. I listen to a lot of him. What he does is he'll sit there with a blank piece of paper or a notepad, and because this happens to me a lot, when you're talking to them and they say something, and man, it makes you think of a question that you want to ask. Rather than asking the question and you don't want to interrupt them, you have to hold the question because you don't want to interrupt them. So you want to tell them after they're finished talking, right? But then here's the thing, like you're trying to remember the question you want to ask them, and at the same time they're talking, you're either forgetting the question that you're about to ask them, or you're not listening to what they're saying. And it's one or the other. You can't, a lot of people, some people might be able to do it. I fucking can't do it. I'll be sitting there, I'll think of a question and I'll say it over and over in my head so I don't forget, and I stop listening to what they're saying. And that's important, to be listening to what they're saying, because you miss important shit that leads on to other conversations. So once leaning on with the piece of paper, what I do is once they talk, I will, if I think of a question to ask them, I'll sit here, I'll write it down while I'm still listening, and then I'll keep listening. And then like when I get to a certain point and I know and I feel it in the flow, I'll go back and I'll ask that question. And so, yeah, basically it's to keep questions down that pop up that you thought of during the conversation, but you don't want to interrupt them and you don't want to forget it and you don't want to stop listening to them. Write it down on your piece of paper. So keep a blank piece of paper with you, talk to them. They're saying something, you think of a question, you write it down, you keep listening and you refer back to it. That'd be my biggest tip.
Yeah, I think that tip flows in perfectly as well with this next question. And it's do you struggle to keep the convo going?
I guess probably with different people it'll always vary on like how easy it is to keep a conversation going, because that's just gonna be their personality and their nature. Are they talkative? If they're a very quiet person, like it's gonna be a little bit harder to keep a conversation going. But I don't find it very difficult. And I also think that it's a skill. Like it's a skill that's developed. It's an art form, basically. It's just like any other art form. It's just like playing the guitar. It's just like singing. It's just like drawing. The art of conversation is massive. And, you listen to someone like Joe Rogan, for example. Keep talking about him, but like, listen how smart he is and shit. And like that's culminated over years and years of podcasting and talking to so many different smart people, and like his flow and the way he talks, and that's just come over time. He's developed that. He's an artist. He's an art. His art is conversation, and he's nailed it. So, I reckon it takes practice, but I do reckon it comes easier to some people than others. I think for a more quiet, laid-back person that doesn't talk as much and doesn't have as many conversation skills, I think it would be harder. I think I do have that in a certain sense, so it makes it a bit easier. But yeah, again, it comes down to the person you're talking to, and that's something that I focus on when I bring guests in. Like, it's got to be interesting. It's got to be a good conversation. It can't just be an interesting person. If the interesting person never fucking talks or doesn't say anything, then it's not going to be an interesting conversation to listen to. So you'll always make sure that if you're bringing someone on, that they're good to have a yarn with, kind of thing, because that's what my podcast is. So that's it.
Exactly. I think we're going to wrap it up soon, but last question: how many podcasts have you done?
Funny you say that, mate.
Funny I do.
This is actually podcast number 100. It's been a long time coming. Holy shit. Well, we finally got through it. We finally got to podcast 100. Actually, we had to delete one way back, so the last one would have been 100. But fuck it, this one's now 100. Holy shit. Yeah, crazy.
Does that mean that we're going to now change the name to 138?
138. Yeah, bro. Yeah, so, I mean, that's, I guess, see, look at that. Like, that's just, if you listen back to my podcasts, and if you're listening to this one now, I advise you to go back and listen to number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Then listen to like number 20 and listen to number 30 and listen to number 40 and listen to the difference that's happened over time. And I'd like to fucking hope that it's gotten better. So, podcast number 100. Next stop 1,000, baby.
That's it, man. Consistency.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Again, make sure that you go and jump on manscaped.com and use promo code 138 and help them stay on board with the podcast because, we really want to keep them on board, keep them happy. So 138 on there, and Arepa, as usual, always sponsoring the podcast. Use promo code 138, 20% off. That's us. See you next time. Dropping Wednesdays and Fridays every week from now on at 6 o'clock. So getting a bit of consistency back. That's us. Later.